going to call this meeting of the Oskaloosa City Council to order. Today is May 19th, 2014. We start with the invocation by Pastor Michael Dotson, Assembly of God Church.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we pause from our activities of this day and before this meeting to give thanks to you for all your blessings that you have poured down upon us and continue to place in our lives. We thank you for the freedoms, the liberties we enjoy. We thank you, Father, for this great city. And as your word commands, we pray for those in authority that you would give them your wisdom, you would give them your knowledge and your grace. And we pray that decisions that they make would be for your glory and also for the benefit of this community. We again thank you for all of your blessings, and we pray your blessings upon this meeting tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Charlie, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Caligari?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Here.
Moore?
Yes.
Benzetton?
Yes.
Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Here.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is community comments. This item is reserved to receive comments from the community for concerns whether or not they're included on the current agenda. The community is encouraged to come and speak before the mayor and city council, but asked to keep statements brief. Time will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any questions are to be asked of the city staff, the council members, or the mayor prior to speaking to the full council, so concerns can be properly researched and answered away from the meeting. Comments are to be directed to the mayor and city council only. Is there anyone who would care to speak at this time? Yes, sir. Please come up to the microphone. Name and address.
Okay. Can I pass these out?
Sure.
Okay. I'll keep one. Tom, you don't get one. You would want one.
I've looked at it several times. Give them Tom.
Okay, get my
Could I have one,
glasses on.
please? Or is that the last one?
Here, that could be the last one.
I don't. I know what.
Okay, I won't take very much time, but this is an issue that I would like to address, and it's a sidewalk issue.
Okay. Name and address, though.
Tom Gillespie, 1103 Woodland Road.
Okay.
And the information that you just received is a Beacon assessor's view of the property in question. Woodland Road is the white strip on the bottom. South 11th is on the right. The lot in the blue is owned by my wife and her sister, and they inherited that from their parents. The house to the right of that, which looks like a T, is the lot that we just got through purchasing from my mother, Bernice Walling, in 2012. There is a sidewalk in front of those two lots that has been there since Chuck Walling built this house. Now, how long ago, I have no idea. The sidewalk was basically buried with brush and dirt, and the lot on the left in the blue was an old pasture, and you couldn't see the sidewalk. Well, now that we've remodeled the house, stripped some of the landscape back, we have an old sidewalk. And I have asked Mr. Paul, the city engineer, about this, and I've talked to several people on city council. What I would like to do is remove the sidewalk, level it, put dirt down, and reseed it. Woodland Road is a road that has no storm sewer, no curb and gutter. These sidewalks don't go to anywhere. The sidewalks, or the sidewalk was put in before 1958, and I can't tell you when. And somebody was going to develop that, and it was in the county at that time. This land was annexed into the city in 1965. So that's my issue. What I've been told is if I remove the sidewalks, I've got to put in new sidewalks. Well, I'm going, why? They don't go anyplace. They absolutely don't go anyplace. And there's no other sidewalks except for the neighbor to the left of the blue rectangle. There's partial sidewalk there. That property is owned by Tracy Ryan. And to the left of that, a property owned by Joe Crookham and Jeannie Berry. So there's no other sidewalks out there on Woodland Road. And to my understanding, well, I don't know. I'd like to get on the agenda at the next meeting to explain this again and make an exception to the rule. Why can't there be an exception to the rule of taking the sidewalk out? It's not, to me, it's black and white. So,
On the council a couple of weeks ago. Tom, we could have used you.
pardon?
Me and Jason could have used you up here a couple of weeks ago.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Sure.
Theoretically, if sidewalks were connected to there, magically, would you have a problem laying new sidewalks?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and you as city council have the ability to do that, to force them to put it in. If there were sidewalks, everybody had sidewalks, I don't have a problem with that.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the ordinance for the sidewalks, you've got to have, it seems like to me, there has to be some common sense here.
Thanks, Tom.
So what I'm requesting is to get on the agenda, and the reason I'm trying to do this, and first of all, I want to make the property that I bought, look nice from the outside. And it's starting to. I'm starting to get the landscaping in. This pasture has been mowed by me personally. I don't want to maintain this sidewalk in the wintertime with a snow blower. There's no way. I don't want people walking on the sidewalk because I've got liability, and I'm not, well, I shouldn't say that. Nobody that I know of from the city has ever said, you need to clean this sidewalk off or replace it until now. Because I don't think they knew it was there.
Yeah, I was going to say, no one knew it was there.
Exactly.
Cover it back up.
That's all I have to say. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tom.
Thank you.
So I'd like to get on the agenda for next.
Well, hang on. We have an existing code that says that you would replace that sidewalk. So if you're wanting to do a variance to that code, wouldn't that go through another committee first, planning and zoning or something like that? Okay. So perhaps before you end up on the city council agenda, you would need to talk to the planning and zoning commission first. And then they would hand down a recommendation to us.
Why don't we, as staff, look at that, because I don't know if that's necessarily the appropriate steps, Mr. Mayor.
Well, why don't you talk about it and get back to me, because I don't see, well,
Okay.
that's a slow
you get hold of one
process,
another?
people.
I mean, the most direct is to have council give, I mean, you can make exceptions to your own ordinance. That's what you as council can do.
We did out at William Penn.
Okay. What were you saying, Mike?
That's all I was saying.
Okay.
I've already told him all this.
Okay. So who's going to contact who?
I will follow up with Mr. Gillespie.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Ooh, you all right?
Does anyone else care to speak?
One of each, pass them.
William Ottens, 401 South A Street, and Library Director. I just wanted to take a few minutes to tell you about our summer reading program, which is going to kick off in about 2 weeks. Our kickoff party is going to be Monday, June 2nd at 6 o'clock. We're going to have snacks and activities for kids, and it'll be the kickoff for the summer reading program where kids can register for the program. And it's not just for kids anymore. We have an adult summer reading program as well, where you can pick up a reading log, read 5 books over the summer, and put your name in for some awesome prizes. If you look at the back side of the trifold, those are our summer reading community partners. The summer reading program, all the prizes, all the presenters, everything we get for the program is totally reliant upon our community partners, donations from businesses and organizations in the community. So I just wanted you to be aware of what's going on at the library. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you, William.
Thanks, William.
Is there anyone else who would care to speak tonight?
Hi, I'm Nancy Shipman, 2567 285th Street. My husband and I own a rental property on 15th Avenue East. And on your agenda, you're going to consider an ordinance to establish a no parking zone along both sides of South 4th Street from 15th Avenue East to a point 25 feet north of 15th. I think that's an excellent solution, and I apologize for it coming this far.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Does anyone else care to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Agenda item number 5 is the consent agenda. These are things that are mostly routine in nature. I did want to draw the council's attention that it does include passing the third reading of an ordinance amending the driveway culvert regulations, also third reading of an ordinance having to do with parking restrictions on both sides of North 11th Street from C Avenue East to J Avenue East, and then also scheduling a public hearing on a vacation and sale of a north-south alley adjacent to 505 4th Avenue East. Do we have a motion for approval?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Explain to me again. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to pull item H.
Okay.
That's the alley.
Vacate.
Okay. Scheduling a hearing.
Pardon?
Scheduling a
Oh,
hearing.
okay, that's fine then.
Okay.
Can you explain item C to me? I just don't understand what we have anything to do with it. They gave the building to William Penn. So what are we?
On their liquor license, you have owners on the liquor license on the application. So you approve the application with the previous owners. Whenever there's a change in ownership, we have to do a police check on that, and you need to approve the change in
No, you
ownership.
answered the license. I forgot about the license. I just
Yeah,
couldn't figure out what, hey, they gave it to them, and what do we have to do with that?
Sorry, I'll try to put that on
Yeah, okay, thank you.
the document next time, what it's.
So do we have a motion yet?
We have a
Yes,
motion and a second.
Motion and second, okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yates?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
And Zetton?
Yes.
Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Takes us to item number 6, the regular agenda A. This is discussion and possible action on the City Council Planning Committee report and recommendations regarding blue zones. The following information was drafted by the Planning Committee Chair, City Council Member Jason Van Zetten, on May 13 of 2014. We as the Planning Committee have met and have our recommendations ready to present to you and Council on Monday, May 19th as requested. Although there was no formal vote, the council members Moore and Calgery are in favor of recommending new and current policies that will score 25 points, and we only need 17 for blue zone. The council member Van Zetten is recommending the city not participate in limiting the choice of citizens, as this is an issue individuals and businesses should be free to choose. Ultimately, the city should be preserving the freedom of choice for its citizens, not limiting them. At this time, committee, city manager, or blue zones cannot determine actual budgets because the depth of these programs can be quite extensive, time-consuming, and expensive depending on the excessiveness of the individual item. Council will need to determine the priority level and budget to move forward on specific line items. Jason's attaching several documents to this email for review, It also should be noted that on May 9th, the committee was presented with a revised, new, and updated pledge sheet, changing the original standard of scoring and language from 13 points to 17 points. At this time, I can't explain that change or guarantee it will not change again now or in the future. As of now, there have been 2 versions of the pledge sheet. Please make sure you're looking at the revised, new, and updated pledge sheet. So that's the introduction at this point. Jason, you're chairman of planning. Why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, we have met. Obviously, hopefully everybody's got a chance to take a look at this. We've actually come back now with our recommendations. Joe, Scotty, feel free to jump in at any time here. So if y'all had a chance to review that, because now we're going to actually take a look at the recommendations. We kind of run into a whole bunch of issues now at this point. And one of them is how much or how far do you want to take it? How much money are we going to attach to some of these programs? We're going to go farther with some of the bike plans. I made a mention in here, Mason City took it as far as $1.8 million to start laying down bike trails and, bike plans. I don't think we want to take it that far, but I don't know where we want to take it. The fact is we've got to start establishing some sort of budget number on here to move forward with some of this stuff. So I'm just trying to get a feel from you as council on some of those recommendations that were highlighted there on pages 4 and 5, where you want to move forward with some of this stuff. I want to point out a couple of things particularly that we decided to add in there. Establish healthy food and beverage policies at youth sporting events.
Where is that?
That's item 9 under healthy eating policy.
Okay.
That's kind of a two-phase thing. We're going to have to either come up with a board and have people determine what's going to be healthy, or we're going to have to decide what to do specifically with that, what is unhealthy and what is not, and what are we going to let people do at sporting events? Are we going to cut out the Snickers bars and pops and all of that stuff? So I just kind of wanted to hear from the rest of you, now that we've made our recommendations. Obviously, some of this stuff goes incredibly far. I'm happy to say that some of that stuff was killed immediately. Okay. We still have a pretty good reach here with this.
Okay. So the charge to the committee was to make recommendations. So the items that are in yellow, are those the recommendations?
Yes, sir. Those are the recommendations.
Okay. So I guess I'm thinking, okay, commentary-wise, I guess that was the charge, was to have the recommendations come before council. Now, is there anything in addition that the rest of the committee wants to say, or anything that you've got that you feel? Because I think what we're looking for is steps on this. Well, first off, we decide what it is we're going to look at and do. Then the next step is to say, okay, how do we do it? And so, and that's what I'm trying to get right now. Is this the recommendation that you would say, okay, yes, this is how we're going to become a blue zone community?
This is the recommendation 2 members move forward with, yes.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So is there a motion supporting these?
Are we going to do each one of these line by line? Is that what we want to do?
Well, not without a motion in a second.
Oh, wait, can't we just accept the whole thing after council people have read it, or?
Well, I mean, that,
These are just recommendations.
right, but it's the recommendation from planning. But I know we've got a deadline that we've got to have this thing laid in by the 9th of June. And so we've got to have something locked in pretty soon.
And Tom, if you're uncomfortable with some of these yellow, we picked 25, we need 17. We brought forward the ones that we thought were things that were no cost, low cost. After talking with Michael, it was things that the city employees, some of it was putting policy in place. So if there's some of these that you'd like to say, I'm an issue with this one,
Well,
we can take some of them out.
well, I have an issue with a lot of stuff, but these don't just stop right here. They just continue on. I mean, it says we're going to pass the resolution to do this, and we're going to pass the resolution to do that, and we're going to make a zoning ordinance or some darn thing or another right on down the line. It just continues to build upon itself. There's no social engineering all the way down through it. So
you're just against
I'm just against the
overall
whole thing. Yep.
And on that, in there, I did provide actual action items on each one of those recommendations. And in the exception of maybe 2 or 3 of these, every one of these is going to be creating a policy and have some sort of budget attached to it. It's not I know we say no low cost on each one. It is not no or low cost on each one. It might be a 500 here, 1,000 here, but you start adding up 25 of these things, and on certain issues, it's going to be, you know, again, how far do you want to take bike trails? I mean, how far do you want to take an individual item? The fact is I think there was a prevailing theory here that we'd be able to pick this out for what we call no or low cost in what we are already doing. That is not the case. We have to put in several policies, and we do have to put budgets behind us.
I think Michael sent to us, and it's in red, what it's going to entail that we do to meet the requirement. Is that correct, Mike?
That was Councilmember Van Zetten's.
Oh, all right, that was.
I do want to point out that I fired that off to Mike to make any corrections, and his staff, both Mike and Dylan looked at that. I accepted every recommendation. There was 1, 2, or 3 things that we killed, but it was almost exactly what they recommended. I agreed that all I wanted to know is what they actually thought we had to do, and that's what you have to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, I think, again, a number of these items we're already working on or could be working on and fold into other items. I think it's also a good assumption to make that there are a number of community volunteers that are organized and ready to assist you as council in the support and the adoption of these items. And what's happening is those groups are looking for you to give your stamp of approval on a host of these items, the menu choices here, and they're going to then be charged with bringing forward options for you, if that's the type of relationship that you want to have with them, which I assume you would like to. It helps us as staff. Sorry?
I understood at our small meeting from asking the head of Blue Zone, Natalie, she said they had over 100 volunteers that were willing to work on this and move, meet and do this and bring it forward. So this is not as if staff is going to have to spend their hours doing this. It's things that they're willing to help do.
It's still going to definitely require coordination, and there will be, if it's a study, there will be somebody is going to have to pay the bill, but it really does depend on how much the community wants to see. I think that's what drives those master plans, and that's, I think, what happened in Mason City is they started off the path of trying to implement one of those master plans, and it led into the staff recommending a certain amount of money, which I believe was like $500,000. And the council said, no, based on the community's support, let's up that to $1.8 million instead.
And did they raise taxes to do it?
I would assume they had to get it from somewhere.
whatever
So I don't know if
the
they got it
community
from hotel tax. There we go. Thanks. Remember.
So this would be basically us agreeing to open up the gates and then recognizing that there would be volunteers who would come along and help implement this, that it's not just solely on the shoulders of the council.
Well, that's the human resource part, but let's go back to the dollars. If it comes to us to spend money and we say no at a later date, what does that do to us?
That means we won't do that particular item, and as I said, there's 25 of them here, and we're going to try and do 17. So we would say, no, we don't want to do that particular item because the costs involved, is the way I'd understand it.
And it's for 3 years, right?
Well,
2016, I
So
think.
until we sit down and put Blue Zone in our budget, we don't have any money to give it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm for still supporting it. I'm not going to, I'm not excited about funding it. The school and the hospital, they're already going to get the taxpayer on the hook because they're 100% behind it. And that's taxpayer dollars, as we know. But I just don't think the city's going to have to venture into that. But I support it wholeheartedly.
Okay, but you're going to have to, I'm going to look at under the acting living policy, for example. We got to look at a bike plan. We got to look at a pedestrian plan. That's money that you got to go get a study on. You just can't just kick this again back to the committee and say, well, figure it out. I mean, you guys all know what these studies cost. I mean, conservatively, what, $15,000 or $20,000? You know that's going to be in the ballpark.
And to support what you're saying, we have to do 2 items in each of these. And the 2 you pointed out were 2 points. And in that particular one, we still have 5, so there would be 3 others that would put us in compliance.
I mean, are you comfortable saying you'll back it for 100 grand and then letting the committee go back and trying to figure out where to place that 100 grand?
No.
I'm not gonna vote for it.
No.
Okay, well, you got to put money into it, though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If
We
you
don't
can say
really-
you can be for blue, again, this is not the place for government to be. But if you're going to be here, you better put cash on the table. And you got to tell us something.
If one of the items ended up leading to, let's say, the pedestrian master plan, what if that pedestrian master plan actually outlines where we're going to connect sidewalks? So Mr. Gillespie's request is nonsense. And we have a plan in place and it says, okay, here's how we connect everybody in the city and it's $5 million. What do you as council want to put aside towards that? That's what could come out of this.
What was the last statement?
That could be the result of the study.
But you're still
But we
putting
don't-
money into the
That's the
study.
result of
But
it.
that's what you as council said that you were
I
gonna
couldn't
do
get
anyway.
$35,000 to do a traffic study that Aaron and I took a stand on that made absolute sense that this council voted down on. Now we're magically going to find money for blue zones?
Mayor, Council, I work for you, of course, and I guess what I'm hearing is the community is saying these things are priorities by being involved, and so that's what gives you support to do that. That's what
not
gives
the community
you.
I'm listening to.
And I've gotten quite a few phone calls and I've tried to make it through Hy-Vee in an hour and I can't do it.
Oh, no, see, that's interesting because I don't know about you, Tom, or Doug, all the ones I've read were all in support.
I haven't had a single comment from a person in this community that is not 100% pushing us to support blue zones. Now, if there are people out there, I'd like to hear from them, but I mean, I've gotten a ton of input, as much on this as any subject we've done,
Me too.
and it's been nothing but
But positive.
100% move this forward for our community.
I haven't had one person ask you to move it forward.
Well, I've sent several of them to you. I forwarded them on to you.
I'll send some your way.
I want to chime in on that because
We do, all the blanket emails from.
Yes, from the committee, yes, I do get those. And
Yeah,
this
well-
belongs in the school. I'm not against the school having this. Educate the kids, but don't try to get the city involved in it.
school's a different story. Those are
That's
people
right.
under the age of 18. Now we're trying to expand that to people over the age of 18. That's completely different. And to some of the emails that, Doug, that you even sent out, one of those gentlemen had no idea the negative impact that we're going to have on his company with that. These recommendations will now specifically, in the case of vending standards alone, you have to have 50% of that vending machine be healthy.
telling you the feedback I had.
What
I
sense
got
does that even
100%.
make?
Okay. So getting back to the recommendation that's made by the planning committee currently is for 25 points.
Yes,
And
we,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What you said we have to turn in on June 9th,
Okay.
is that saying we're doing all 25 points of these at that point? And if, say, we get into it and the committee brings back a policy that we don't like and we say, no, we're not going to do that one, so we're only going to get 22 points, then is that a red flag with blue zones? Or as long as we get 17, are we okay once we turn in whatever we turn in?
Is there a Blue Zone board member here?
All right.
Pam Blomgren, would you mind taking the microphone for us?
and Pam, I'm going to speak out of turn. It seemed like you had the top leadership at our subcommittee meeting. Did you not?
Pam Blomgren, 305 North 10th. Yes, I am a member of the leadership team, which we call Power 9. What I am charged with is helping work through the community policy process. I'll answer specific questions if I can. I also have Dawn here, who is a co-chair, and Natalie here, of course. So what was the specific question, Mayor?
Question for me is, what does that product look like that Blue Zones needs to get from us?
It's my understanding that what we need by the 9th of June is the resolution that would encapsulate what you guys have decided with regard to the pledge. I don't believe we need the signed pledge at this moment. We just need the resolution that says we're going to work on these things. What the community policy volunteers need from you is the signed pledge after you've worked through what you are going to or not going to do, so that they know how to put together the action steps and to come to you and work with this.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't speak in community comments because it's a very emotional thing for the 100+ volunteers who have put so much time in. You also have high school kids who have put some time in, and I don't want to make it an emotional issue. It needs to be an issue about well-being in the community, quality of life issues, and also about the longevity of some of the studies that have been shown how this affects a community long-term. And it's still a selective process in that when you see Mason City putting $1.8 million towards a pedestrian sidewalk plan, that isn't something that we are asking you necessarily to do. We aren't saying commit this kind of money. We're saying here's what is coming out of some of the discussions. Walkability is one of them. How can we address that? Do we put together a huge plan? I don't know. That's part of what your role would be. And also, at some point, there's going to be some focus groups with the community members so that they can help narrow some of those things down.
Okay. So from the Blue Zone perspective, we can take a shotgun approach at this point and say we're interested in all these 25 points. And it's not going to hurt anything if somewhere down the line we say, whoops, we're not going to be able to do that number 25 points, so now we're back to 24. And it can be worked a little bit later.
It can be fluid. It can be what you choose. It's the point system that will cause a certification of Oskaloosa to be a Blue Zone community.
Okay.
It's the meeting that point guideline is what the certification would do, or that's what it would deal with. You don't want to kill the project at this point for a variety of reasons, but I will address that if you ask me.
Okay.
The gentleman who was there was the guy down from the state, so I figured he was the final word. Is that correct? Or
he is one of the state team members, okay. Correct.
And the way I understood it from him, this was a menu, and we could pick from this menu, and then if some of it didn't quite go for us, we weren't going to get shot or anything over it, then as long as we chose from the menu and got 2 items from each and started 2 new things, we would be in compliance.
It's been very clear from the meetings that I've had on the leadership level and when state people come and talk to us that this needs to be molded to fit our community. We are not Mason City. We are not Iowa City. We're not Albert Lee. We are Oskaloosa, and what works for us is what we're trying to put together in the action plan.
And
we can't put that together without your support.
Yeah, and we're just now coming up with what we think might work. We're not positive, but there's detailed steps in this other thing that tell how we could meet that or what we could do, and that's where we will go next if we accept what the subcommittee suggested.
Correct. And it's my understanding that even as we go through this, we will have communications with the state level, and they may say, we will mold it this particular way. I mean, it's just, again, it's what's best for Oskaloosa.
How come it is a moving target, the 13 to 17 points? Does anybody know? Okay.
What happened with that, my understanding, again, is that the application process took place in 2012. And that was when the council signed the resolution saying, you bet, this is a good thing, we're going to go forward. There were communities in Iowa that were already in the next step process, okay? So they had a pledge that was created. The pledge was edited, modified, made better in 2013, which was about the time that we were selected, which is the documentation that got floated out. Because of the Iowa cities being worked on and again being fluid and trying to work with things, they made the pledge process better, a little bit different, and modified it yet again in January 2014 What happened was Oskaloosa just didn't get the 2014 documentation. It was like a clerical error.
2013.
It was modified again in 2014.
Yep.
So we've been working from a 2012, not a 2013, and there you go.
Okay.
Again, a clerical type error that happens when you have, well, you know how that works.
Jason is concerned that that target might move again.
This isn't a clerical error. I'm sorry.
No.
But there was 13 points in 2013.
Right.
2014, it's 17 points.
Well-
They just, you say it got better, it got tighter.
It did get tighter, but it also allowed a community to be able to mold it to the best that they could for their own community. And what the clerical error was that Oskaloosa wasn't presented or didn't get the correct pledge circulated before the process started of looking at all of the pledge items and getting all of the volunteers together. Once the resolution's signed, and once that's in place, and you guys are looking at the current pledge, once that's done, even if state level modifies the pledge again, it will not change what you guys have put in, what you have signed.
But it sunsets in 2016 of August.
18 months is this process.
18 months, right? Mm-hmm. So if we want to re-up, guess what? New contract, probably new points. Going to be more points that we're going to have to achieve, and we're going to have to come back again. We're not going to be able to renew that current contract again. And if we're able to mold this from 13 to 17 points, I can put a Blue Zones plan together for 5 points for you. I mean, there's 5 easy things on here that I can do it, and I can say, hey, let's go with that. But they're not going to accept 5 points.
No, they won't. Not if you want to be a certified Blue Zones community. That's correct. They won't accept 5 points.
And then, Tony, when it sunsets, we don't even have to.
There is no
reapply or
requirement that you re-up. It could be that you look at the documentation and you look at how your community has changed. You look at what the people are saying and what your constituents are saying, and you may say, you know what, this is a good thing after all.
I'm a healthy guy. I've said all the time, get out, run, go do that. But I just can't enforce it on people.
I understand, you aren't. It is a voluntary situation for those who participate.
Right. After I limit their choices, so when they quit.
How are you limiting their choices if what we're saying is what you get to volunteer, first of all, to participate, and that's even on a business level, an individual level and a business level, a restaurant level, a grocery store level. That's all by volunteer. I want to do it, fine, no problem. And then if they choose to do that, then they go and they select what they want to do to make that happen. We aren't saying that you as a restaurant, you as a business have to do this. And again, there are different items in there that you get to pick and choose if you are a business who voluntarily decides to participate.
That's right. And if you let them voluntarily do that, you don't need us. Because we don't need to put in stuff like adopt healthy vending standards in municipal buildings, establish healthy food and.
But that's a municipal building. That's you guys.
But you're looking at us as the enforcement of this. So if people don't want to do this, guess what? They're still going to have to do it. We're going to have to pass a policy that accepts these standards. I'm simply
make sure that
saying.
You're looking that some of those are about municipal buildings, about your buildings.
I understand that.
And the businesses out there, they get to choose their own standards and their own things. You aren't writing policy for their business. If you're talking about vending, for example, I mean because the businesses have a different pledge that they're looking at. This is your pledge.
Is Blue Zones asking me if I have the right to eliminate pop from community stadium at a football game? It says healthy standards.
Is that something that is a possibility? Yes, it is. Does that make sense for Oskaloosa? Absolutely not.
It's on the table.
And there was a letter that Andy Davis, I believe, from Mahaska Bottling wrote to you that had some good stuff in there about why he's involved and how. And even though he feels like at times his industry is
I would very much like to rehear after that he sees when it comes down to Snack Express, one of his subsidiary companies is going to be affected at least 50% in the vending standards. He didn't know that when he sent that letter out. That is bothersome to me.
You and I aren't going to agree on this one, I don't think. And Mayor, I don't know that you want us to continue to have this back and forth. My concern tonight is that we don't kill the project at this stage.
Yeah.
If you guys decide that at some point you can't do everything that there is on the community pledge, and we don't get certified, so be it. I still think that you have a lot of community members, you have a lot of volunteers, you have a lot of businesses who are very much in favor of this. And I urge you to please don't kill it, because not supporting it and pulling your support does kill the project. It's done. That's not meant to be a threat. That is a, please look at it in the big picture and not in the devil in the details at this level. Not at this level. Not yet. Please.
And I appreciate it. Thank you, Pam, because what I was looking for was to know whether we could take an approach where we say yes to a number of things and that at a later date find out that it doesn't work as well as we thought. The answer appears yes, that if we were to pass what we have before us in a resolution form, then start to implement, and then we'll find out what kind of horsepower we've got to actually achieve these things.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
And again, I'm just as new at this stuff as you guys, but that's my understanding. And that's, I think, why the planning committee looked at, look, here's 25 points that we perhaps could reasonably get to. You're only required 17. If it doesn't work out that you don't even get the 17, we don't become certified, and it's done.
Yep. And your point is don't kill it now.
Don't kill it here. Please don't kill it here. You've got way too many people who've invested way too many hours at the moment.
Okay.
You know, if it.
Other questions for
Said
Pam?
something inaccurate, please help me out here. But that's my understanding and that's my request.
Okay.
Do we need to call
Okay.
for a vote on the
Well,
one?
I don't know there's a particular vote beyond, well, I guess
We have to pass a resolution.
you need some help as far as drafting a resolution, don't you, Mike?
I think it would be good to have support of the recommendation.
Okay, so the recommendation as is has 25 points. Do we have a motion supporting the 25 points?
So moved.
Second.
How much
Okay.
money are you going to put towards this, Tom?
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
How much money are you going to allocate?
He didn't
towards
know.
it?
Told you, I'm not gonna allocate any
But
money.
if you don't
till I'm
allocate
before
money,
it.
this thing dies. Why would you vote
Well,
for it
then
now?
it's dead.
Watch, it'll
Yeah.
work.
We'll know then.
So we'll see how we go.
You can vote, you
Okay.
get to vote every time you want to. It's not a problem.
Okay.
I mean, this is,
Roll call, please.
Callegeri?
Yes.
Jimenez?
No.
Moore?
Yes.
Van Zetten?
No.
Versteg?
No.
Walling?
yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Okay, it passes 4-3. Moving on. Item B, considering a site plan for Webster School, parking improvements along the north side of 5th Avenue East between South 7th and South 9th. The Oskaloosa Community School District has submitted a site plan for on-street parking improvements along the north side of 5th Avenue East from South 7th to South 9th. Proposed plans call for 2 separate phases of on-street parking improvements. Phase 1 of the on-street parking improvements has 21 standard angled parking spaces and 2 handicap accessible angled parking spaces. Phase 1 located along the north side of 5th Avenue East from South 7th Street to South 8th Street. The school would like to start Phase 1 construction this year. Phase 2 of the on-street parking improvements has 20 standard angled parking spaces located along the north side of 5th Avenue East from South 8th and to South 9th. Phase 2 of the proposed plans would only take place if the school has need for it in the future. Planning and Zoning considered this item at their May 12, 2014 meeting, recommending by a vote of 4 to 1 to 1, 4 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstention, that the City Council approve the site plan of the Webster School parking improvements with the stipulation that sidewalk be completed for both Phase 1 and Phase 2. Commission member Holden Barnhart opposed the motion to approve the site plan with the above-mentioned stipulations. Commission member Charlie Comfort abstained because he's a member of the school board. So staff is recommending council consider the P&Z recommendation to approve the site plan with the stipulation for the sidewalk as presented. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
The drawing was kind of small, but so all, I couldn't read it, in
Parking
fact.
spots.
But, so the Phase 2 piece that they've stipulated is only for the sidewalk piece? They would not be doing all the parking, is that correct?
Yeah, Mr. Ryder, would you be willing to step up to the microphone?
Well, I was afraid you were going to ask me that.
Yeah, name, address, and what do you think of Blue Zones while we're at it?
Sidewalk, is that what it is?
Russ Ryder, Superintendent of the Oskaloosa School District, and 1150, let me see, what is my address? 1115 Elmhurst Court, that's it. Phase 2 actually would be a combination of what I believe would be the angled parking as well as a sidewalk on, from South 8th to South 9th. And I've got Bob Nilsson here with me too. He's the one who is responsible for drawing up all the plans. And again, we would look at that Phase 2 after this next school year, looking at the traffic flow and seeing if we believe we have enough parking for the parents who be coming in, dropping off their children, walking them in, walking them back out, walking back out, and then moving on. I believe we will. I hope we will. But if we don't, we do have plans already in place if need be.
Okay. Questions of council members?
So I guess my question, phase 1 is to about the middle of the drawing there?
Correct.
And so the stipulation that P&Z had was it to do phase 1, parking, sidewalk, everything, but also to do the sidewalk only for phase 2? Is that correct, Charlie? You're on that transition there? Not just a small transition, it'd be taken all the way down that full block then, correct?
Correct, so it's straight and it's not jogged down at an angle.
Okay. So that is the motion that we're, do all of phase 1 and the sidewalk for phase 2?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just, that.
What was that
as you
comment,
read.
Bob?
Yeah, what'd you say, Pop?
Okay, and maybe those in the committee did not know or realize, if you take the sidewalk all the way from South 7th through South 8th, which we are looking and hoping to do and planning to do, if we take it from South 8th to South 9th immediately, that's going to cause an issue with the potential parking because of the slope at this particular point. There is a fairly large slope where the potential phase 2 parking lot is. That would take up, for the most part, 15 odd feet, I believe. And from there, it heads down pretty quickly. So if phase 2 is needed, we would have to come in there, bring in a lot of dirt, put the sidewalk in after the parking lots would have already been created. So I guess from my perspective, we would like to, as a school, as a superintendent, I would like to see phase 1 required only, and if phase 2 needed to be, we would in fact then come in, add the additional parking, and then continue the sidewalk in the same manner.
So you're going to have a transition area from that new
Yes.
sidewalk to the old sidewalk?
Yes.
That's correct.
That's fine.
So it won't be a straight, it'll be a,
Be angled, be L.
we have a drawing of that?
Oh, the stipulation was for phase 1.
You do not.
No, we don't have a drawing for that. It would be just.
Is this when the stop sign is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Back to the existing
Stop.
Yeah.
They're going to do this, and this is going to be if needed.
Just have to use our imaginations.
Yeah. Does this eliminate the stop sign now? That was part of the plan, right? Do I even want to bring it up?
Yeah, the existing sidewalk between South 8th and 9th is, I think, if I remember correctly, it's in decent shape. It's 4 foot wide. It continues straight. Our goal is to come in, there is a fire hydrant there, if I'm not mistaken, and it's right in that transition period. And if you look in the middle and the bottom where South 8th continues to head south, that's an area where we'd like to keep, a parking spot out of. And so that would be that area whereby from the new sidewalk that's being put in, we would continue around and then just go into the existing current sidewalk.
So I'm hearing to do the sidewalk for phase 2 would be difficult from your perspective.
Have to bring the bill in now.
But what staff is recommending is we do that, correct?
Yeah,
That's
it
what
says
staff. Oh, but it says here staff recommends doing what planning and zoning recommends.
Yeah, with sidewalk completed for both phase
So
1
that's
and 2.
So according to you, Russ, our motion's wrong, and you just want to do
I would
phase
hope it
1.
would be, yes.
By that little part of sidewalk.
Yeah, just because of the addition of the second, and we're not opposed to putting in a brand new sidewalk and the phase 2 parking if we believe we need that. In fact, we'll have to take the existing sidewalk out, just like we are now, put in the new parking if necessary, and then we will bring in dirt and we will add what we need to in order to create that new sidewalk. But you do that,
You didn't want to do that this year.
not this year, no.
Okay.
All right, so then we don't want to pass this as it is.
Well,
Amended.
so who made the motion?
I did.
Okay, you want to pull that second sidewalk out of there?
I will.
Okay, who seconded?
I'll second his. And I think I was.
Okay,
Yeah.
you okay with that, Joe?
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
So what exactly is motion?
Phase 1 sidewalk only, transition area to the old sidewalk.
Were you a part of that planning meeting? The planning and zoning meeting?
Not that particular meeting, I could not make it.
Why would staff
second on that,
recommend
right?
phase 1 and 2?
Second it.
The P&Z recommended that. The planning and zoning recommended phase 1 and 2, and I think it was discussed too why they wanted it, and I think we also discussed the transitioning to the existing sidewalk, but they chose to elect the stipulation of continuing the proposed sidewalk all the way. That's
You
planning.
guys are paying the bill on it. Why would it matter? Was it just misunderstanding? Here's the thing. I'm trying to understand the process, why you're asking for something where did it get messed up here?
That's a great question. I do not know. I was not a part of that planning and zoning
Okay.
committee meeting that
Charlie, were
particular
you
night.
You voted.
Charlie may have been, he may not have known the entire plan, but that's, right, so I don't know.
Okay.
But,
And you expect this clear up all the traffic problems over there?
no, I don't know. We hope it helps with a lot of the parking issues, which then relates to part of the traffic issues down there. Again, our concern is for the safety of the kids. We're looking to how do we get parents to take 4-year-olds, have a place to park, walk them to the door, be able to walk back, and we believe adding 21-plus parking spots here should help alleviate some of the crowding issues.
Does he have to come back if they're going to do phase 2, or is he good to go on phase 2 when they decide to pull the trigger?
This would be approval of the site plan, so it'd include 1 and 2. They would not need to come back.
Okay. So,
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Any other questions? So I'm going to call for the roll call vote, and this is for the 21 spaces and the sidewalk, all in phase 1. Roll call, please.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Benzetton?
yes.
Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Okay, item C is consider an ordinance amending the city code, amending provisions pertaining to Chapter 10.48 parking regulations and Section 10.48-255 school loading and unloading zones. It's a first reading. Public Works Department is requesting to update the current code to reflect the Webster School parking improvements along the north side of 5th Avenue East. The existing school loading zone is 390 feet long and can allow a maximum of 15 to 16 parallel parking spaces. The proposed Phase 1 of Webster School parking improvements will allow 23 angled parking spaces and reduce the length of the school loading zone to 320 feet. The proposed angled parking spaces will allow for 7 to 8 additional parking spots. Planning and Zoning considered this item at their May 12th meeting and recommended by a vote of 6-0 that the City Council approve amending the section code of Section 10.48.255 school loading and unloading zones to accommodate the Webster School on-street parking improvements. And so staff is recommending, approval as well. And then we have the list of amendments here in front of us. So do we have a motion for this approval?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Benzetton?
Yes.
Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item D, consider an ordinance establishing a no parking zone along both sides of South 4th Street from 15th Avenue East to a point 25 feet north of 15th Avenue East. First reading. The Public Works Department received a request to restrict parking along South 4th from 13th Avenue East to 15th Avenue East. Currently, no parking restrictions on either side of this section of South 4th Street. The street pavement is chip seal. Width of the street varies from 22 to 26 feet. This section of street does experience a higher than normal level of bus and truck traffic due to the presence of Oskaloosa School Bus Garage and other businesses that are along 13th Avenue East. Planning and Zoning Commission at their meeting on March 10 considered the request to restrict parking along South 4th from 13th Avenue East to 15th Avenue East, and at that meeting, they asked staff to research the possibility of converting this section of street to a one-way southbound traffic only. A survey was then conducted with the one-way street option listed, along with the parking restriction options. Of the respondents, 20% wanted to leave the on-street parking as is, 70% wanted to prohibit parking on both sides at all times, and 10% wanted to prohibit parking on the west side at all times. None of the respondents opted to convert the street to a one-way. At the meeting on April 14th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended by a vote of 3-2 to approve southbound one-way traffic along South 4th Street from 13th Avenue to 15th Avenue East, along with the parking restrictions along the east side of said section of South 4th. The City Council at our meeting on April 21st approved the first reading of the ordinance to restrict parking along both sides of South 4th Street between 13th Avenue East and 15th Avenue East. However, at the meeting on May 5th, the City Council requested staff to amend the motion, revise the ordinance to restrict parking along both sides of South 4th Street from 15th Avenue East to a point 25 feet north of 15th Avenue East. So, anyway, we show the adjustments that would be made to code. Kind of a long story, but I think we've got the right idea here. So this is the first reading. We have a motion for approval. Okay, any discussion?
We talked about this last time quite extensively, and I think this is something that all the residents agree on and think is a good idea. So
I had mentioned earlier that back in October, 2 bus drivers approached me about this problem, and I said they need to go back through the school system to get, to where we're at today. But I did call one of them last night, and he thought that it took care of the problem as far as they were concerned.
I guess this is more, from my perspective, a point of clarification, but I'm fine with the 25 feet, but what I remembered we talked about last meeting was that for staff to analyze the distance and come up with that, I didn't remember us telling you that it had to be 25 feet. And if we did, I apologize. I'm fine with it being 25 feet.
I just made that recommendation. I didn't say it had to be 20. I just recommended,
Okay.
hey, 25 feet.
That's fine.
I just threw it out, pulled it out of the sky.
All right.
But that's something I think staff can handle.
Okay.
Pretty sure, Mayor Council, that was actually the motion.
Oh,
It'd be 25 feet?
Was it?
Okay.
Then I changed it.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Well,
And just, you made the motion, but then you changed it, I thought, to say,
Oh,
have
to,
staff review it and bring it back to the,
we're not opposed to 25 feet.
no, you're right.
Any more comments?
I think that's how it went.
So staff are going to look at it again?
No.
Does 25 work? Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Roll call, please.
It's all right.
yes,
Van Zetten.
Yes.
Versteg.
Yes.
Walling.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Callegeri.
Yes.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Jeez, that passes. Item E, yes. We can talk about it again next time. Consider an ordinance amending the City Code of Oskaloosa by deleting current code section 10.78 and inserting in lieu thereof a corrected section to comport with state statutes, second reading. Chapter 10.78 of the Oskaloosa Municipal Code addresses the use of ATVs and snowmobiles. The ordinance in its current form is based upon Iowa Code Chapter 321I from 2013 having to do with all-terrain vehicles, but does not perfectly comport therewith. And so the proposed ordinance amending Chapter 10.78 deletes current City Code Chapter 10.78 and inserts in lieu thereof a corrected section that comports with the state statutes. Do we have a motion for approval? Okay, discussion?
Does golf carts comply with the state rules?
I think you asked that last time.
He did.
Yes, they do. It's a separate code. Golf carts are covered under a separate code.
But ATVs, no. It just absolutely makes no sense to me. That's why why ATVs, snowmobiles, okay, someone would get. ATVs.
The ATVs, snowmobiles are covered
Especially
under
like the
this
side-by-sides they have now.
They're under this code section here. Golf carts has a specific code relative to street use for golf carts.
Okay. And they're not there yet with ATV, like some of the new side-by-side ATVs or anything like that?
The Code of Iowa allows for councils to choose to do that if councils, by resolution.
Just asking. I mean, you guys have seen these things. It just
Yeah,
it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that we left, golf carts are on there. Why not the side-by-sides? I mean, they're already street ready.
Hot rod ready.
So anyway, second reading having to do with the snowmobiles and ATVs.
I call for the question.
Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Van Zetten?
Yes.
Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Caligari?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Moving on, item F. Consider an ordinance amending the City Code, Chapter 8.08, that allows for more expeditious abatement of repeat nuisance offenses. City ordinances allow for the abatement of nuisance properties. That process typically require owners to receive a notice to abate, and that provides an opportunity to correct the nuisance before a formal action is taken by the city. An exception to this process does exist in situations where the enforcement officer determines that a nuisance constitutes an imminent, clear, and compelling danger to health, safety, or the welfare of persons on property. In those situations, the enforcement officer is authorized to remedy the nuisance without a prior notice and hearing. The above reference process generally addresses most nuisance issues. However, it does not provide much assistance to quickly remedy repeat offender situations where an offensive nuisance exists but does not otherwise constitute an imminent, clear, and compelling danger to health, safety, or welfare. So this item proposes amendments to Chapter 8.08 that will allow the city to more expeditiously remedy repeat nuisance offenders. From a budget perspective, there's no direct budgetary impact, but it does allow for the abatement of nuisances where the city has the option of hiring outside persons for abatement, which would be paid initially by the city, but then costs would be recouped through assessments against the offending resident or property owner. And so the ordinance is written in the notes here. I won't read it at length. Do we have a motion for approval? Okay. Is there any other comments?
I hope it helps.
Okay.
More rules.
Okay.
More stuff in the book. What?
Anything from the city attorney or city manager regarding this? Any additional comments?
Do we have an example of what you're referring to?
Sure.
Just so everybody's clear.
Sure. No, I think I can give you a good one. And we have this problem come up with some frequency. If you leave a lot of trash sitting out on the curb, it's drawing flies, smells, odors, and such. You can make an argument. Okay, this is something. It's a health matter, and if you're not going to clean it up, the city can do it and go ahead and assess it to you. Now, change the facts. You leave an old mattress sitting out on the curb, and that's really probably not a health issue. It's offensive. Nobody likes it, but we've got to go ahead and give a notice to you to get it cleaned up. You still don't clean it up. They turn it over to me. We file a municipal infraction. It may or may not get set for hearing, depending on whether you file an answer and such, and it becomes a much more cumbersome process to get it done. This was geared to deal with a situation that we have not infrequently, where you have problems again and again with the same property. And essentially indicates if we have that problem with you, and we've had that problem with you before within the past year with the same or a substantially similar problem, you don't have to be given that notice. The city can proceed as in an emergency situation, go ahead and abate it and assess the cost to you, number one. Number two, it builds in, much as we have with lawn mowing, a methodology where a certain cost can be assessed on the thing. The city can contract it out and then tax the cost back above a certain minimal level. Once again, to add that incentive to get the problem cleaned up so you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Makes sense.
This seems just a little bit ambiguous. The enforcement officer determines that a nuisance exists, and then it says health, safety, or welfare. I mean, anybody else concerned that could be anything? I mean, really, that's kind of, I understand what we're doing, but there's no constraints to it.
Well, and that's why I referenced that, because I needed an example, because we had at one point an overzealous officer.
Yes, you did.
At one point. So.
Well, let me add this to that too, if I could, Tom. The way the ordinance is written here, as you notice, it allows the city to go ahead and abate the nuisance and such, and then take steps to assess it against the property owner. But much as we do with mowing lawns or shoveling snow, then the issue of actually assessing it and going ahead and putting those costs against the property has to come before the council, so that if we do that and Mark shows up and says, what the heck, this was no problem, he has an opportunity to make his claim to the city and try to challenge that determination.
No, I understand. I'm in full agreement with it. I hope it helps, like you.
You just want the book to get thicker.
I don't want the book to get any thicker. I'd like to cut it in half, actually, but
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
not cut it.
Yes. Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore?
Yep.
And Zetton?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item G is to consider a resolution for the preliminary approval of plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost, also for ordering publication of notice of hearing and notice to bidders. This is all for the 3rd Avenue East reconstruction project. Garden & Associates has prepared the plans and specs for the 3rd Avenue East reconstruction project. The item allows staff to proceed with scheduling a public hearing on the plans and specifications and a bid letting date for the project. The scope of this project includes new concrete pavement with curb and gutter, ADA sidewalk ramps, storm and sewer, sanitary sewer improvements, a new water main, new concrete alley approaches, and driveway replacement along 3rd Avenue East, going from South Market Street to South 7th Street. Pavement replacement and storm sewer improvements will also be done along South 6th Street, and that's from 1st Avenue East to 3rd Avenue East, and along South 1st Street from Rock Island Avenue to 3rd Avenue East. Additional water main will be placed along South 1st Street from 1st Avenue East to 3rd Avenue East. If the project is awarded, construction would be proposed to commence in August or September this year. The anticipated work completion time, 150 working days. Due to the length of time required for this project, the work will likely be suspended during the winter. In the fall of 2014, only work on the city right-of-way will be performed. Street construction will begin in the spring of 2015 or as soon as favorable weather conditions return. City Council is prepared to obtain bids for the 3rd Avenue East reconstruction project. Bids will be received and opened on Tuesday, June 10th, 2014 at 10 o'clock a.m. and presented to the City Council for a public hearing on Monday, June 16th, 2014. So there is a note in here that the preliminary engineering construction cost estimate will be presented separately in another council meeting. So do we have a motion for this resolution to proceed?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
This is the estimate, correct?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. What does that total down to? $1,560,852.
And what did we build into our budgets, Mike? Is it along those lines, or?
The Division 1 is just the city's cost, which is approximately $1.3 million. And I think our budget is in that. It includes some storm sewer improvements, all of that is in the budget. So.
There's a mixture of funding source. So if you'd have to move not only pavement preservation, is it how it's listed in the CIP, you'd also have to pull in stormwater funds.
But is it, I guess, is this latest estimate within the scope of what you thought that funding would be, or would be needed?
Yeah, I think it's close to what Akilish has said all along.
Okay.
And the water department's already on board, right? With their part.
The water mains?
Yeah. You did that for them too, right? Yeah.
And that's the Division 2?
Right.
Yeah. 280,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Will there be anything closed over the winter, Achilles?
No, the goal is to keep the road open in the winter.
Any other comments or questions at this point? Roll call, please.
Walling?
Yes.
Yates?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Moore?
Yep.
And Zetton?
Yes.
Versteeg?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item number 7, reports on items from city staff. City manager, anything to report?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Okay. City clerk, anything?
No, sir, thank you.
City attorney, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, moving on. City council, let's start down that end. Joe, anything?
Nothing.
Okay, Karen?
Nothing.
Scotty?
No, thank you.
Tom?
Nothing, sir.
Doug?
Well, sir.
Tom?
Sir.
Real quickly, Akilish, C Avenue, is that project done? There's some signs and still sitting out there. What do we say with that?
Right, I mean, the project is completed as far as the pavement is concerned. The only part that's remaining is seeding. and I know Mike has sent me an email, and I didn't respond to him, but the only part that's remaining is the seeding, and the contractor should be removing all the signs by tomorrow, is what I've been told. If not, within 2 days, they should be removing all the signs.
Thank you.
Looks good out there.
And I don't have anything to add either, so with that, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.